We desperately need you to prove us wrong. God help us all. If you fail to prove us wrong, God help us.
One trillion species, 7.8 billion humans, 1.9 million species extinct, one planet. Where are we heading? What should we do?
Watch Climate Tracker, only on WION. World is One.
From the world's most volatile region, conflicts over faith and boundaries. Stories of death, destruction, despair, and hope. WION brings you to the heart of the action. Incisive analysis, unrivaled perspective, and exclusive ground reports. Watch West Asia Post every Friday, 8:30 p.m. IST with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
Stay connected with the world through WION. Like the page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter for new alerts. Instagram for videos and images. And the website for the latest news, views and analysis. WIONews.com. World is One.
Hello and welcome to WION live broadcast from London. I'm Oliver Egan and these are the headlines. In the EU corruption scandal, Eva Kaili will demand a probe into other MEPs, says her lawyer, as she's slated to appear in court later today. A day after the ambulance workers' strike in the UK, a massive rush is expected at hospitals and a pending overload. Experts warn of a strike rebound effect in the coming days.
But just be aware that if you do...
We've got our burns kit.
The UN Security Council adopts its first resolution on Myanmar in 74 years, demands an end to violence and urges the military to release all political prisoners, including Aung San Suu Kyi. Nepal Supreme Court orders release of French serial killer Charles Shobhraj, who committed a string of murders across Asia in the 1970s. Jail authorities put a hold on his walking out of jail. Ali Ahmed Aslam, a chef from Glasgow, who is believed to have invented the chicken tikka masala, has died at the age of 77. And Santa frolics in Christmas season. A mega aquarium in Rio de Janeiro soaks in the fervour. Just hours ahead of her first court hearing in Brussels, Greek MEP Eva Kaili's lawyer has said that she felt betrayed by her partner, while maintaining that her client is innocent as per reports. Kaili is due in court later today, where it will be decided whether she will remain in jail or be freed with restrictions until a possible trial begins. Kaili is at the centre of a spiralling investigation into an alleged corruption case involving Qatar. The scandal has rocked the European Parliament for weeks. According to media reports, the lawyer said that Kaili will admit to a judicial hearing that she asked her partner to help get rid of the cash allegedly intended to bribe MEPs. Her father was later found by police carrying a suitcase stuffed with money as he was leaving a hotel. Also demand an investigation into other senior European lawmakers whom she accuses of inviting the Emir of Qatar to address Parliament in early next year. Kaili's lawyer met her in prison for hours, after which he said that nothing could be predicted about the hearing. But there are many legal arguments that support his client's release from jail. The former vice president of the European Parliament was arrested by Belgian authorities after a series of raids found €150,000 at her Brussels residence. Allegations that cash and gifts were exchanged for political influence are at the heart of one of the biggest scandals to hit the European Parliament. The scandal has scarred the reputation of the European Union's only institution, compromising officials elected directly by the 27 member countries. Well, for more on this story, we're joined by political analyst Peter Kleppe. Peter, the trial for Eva Kaili gets underway today. Are we expecting more skeletons to come tumbling out of the closet, do you think?
I think this is not the end of it. We have also seen Morocco being accused of involvement of similar practices. I mean, frankly, in Brussels, it was a bit of a public secret that things like this are going on. It's of course not easy to prove, but it's good that now the Belgian justice system is taking firm action to sort of try to clean up at least a little bit of it. I think part of the problem is that, if you're a member of parliament in one of the national parliaments of the European Union, and suddenly, as for example, a social democrat, you start to praise Qatar's, labor system, I don't think it's going to last very long, because there's so much scrutiny of the media, of other politicians, that you can't get away with that. The problem at the European Parliament level is that it is a little bit of a bubble in its own. So it's sort of, it's much more vulnerable to this kind of misbehavior, if proven, of course.
Well, that brings me on to my next question then, Peter. Of course, what is the way forward after this scandal? Are checks and controls for members? Do they need to be enhanced? What is the solution to stop such scandals as this happening again?
Well, you should know that actually there's a lot of controls in the European Parliament in place. Everything is incredibly bureaucratic, precisely to try to, prevent these kind of things going on. So I'm afraid this really goes to the roots of the problem, which is that there is no sufficient democratic scrutiny of the European Parliament. True, every 5 years people elect MEPs directly, but that is not sufficient to hold them to account. I think the original idea of a European Parliament is not bad. The idea is, look, let's have a directly elected assembly to try to keep the European Union machine in check. But sadly, the European Parliament has not worked like that in the decades that it has existed. It always asks the European Commission to spend more, not less. When it comes to regulation, it always wants to go further. It wants more intrusive regulation. Regularly, we have had scandals like this. We had the cash for law scandals a few years ago. Also, the expenses system of MEPs is still not reformed. They get a very fine salary, but on top of that, they get more than €4,000 per month on their personal bank accounts that they can spend for expenses. But until today, they refuse to disclose how these expenses are being spent, how this taxpayers' funds are being spent. So that's, of course, not going to bankrupt Europe, but this is sort of evidence of how out of control the institution really. There's a culture of irresponsibility, really. And then the Qatar scandal is really then, the outcome of all of this. And sadly, only the top of the iceberg, I fear.
Political analyst Peter Kleppe, I imagine this won't be the last time we hear from you. Many thanks for your analysis for now.
My pleasure.
A day after the strikes by ambulance workers crippled services, National Health Service officials predict tough days ahead in the UK, claiming that the situation arising will cause a big backlog and likely to be very challenging. Well, NHS officials in the UK say the strike could have an after effect similar to bank holidays in terms of causing a rise in healthcare demand. The full impact of Wednesday's ambulance strike is yet to be assessed, as people may not have contacted on emergency numbers despite being in need. Hospital staff in the UK also witnessed an increase in the number of walk-in patients, even as ambulance services were operational for those facing a life-threatening illness. The UK's ambulance strike comes after nurses staged a walkout amidst already soaring burden on health services. The ambulance strike added to those woes. The British Health Services staff are seeking an increase in pay amidst the country's rising inflation. However, the staffers and the government are yet to reach a settlement. Experts say health services may remain stretched until a solution is found. An 8-day strike by airport security staff starting on Friday, as well as a rail workers' strike, threatens massive problems for tourists and locals.
So we've got our burns kit, some paramedic dressings in here.
A train strike in France over the Christmas weekend is expected to throw tourist schedules off gear. On Wednesday, some 200,000 holidaymakers were left scrambling for alternatives as many train operators stopped work. France's rail operator SNCF has cut 1/3 of scheduled trains for the Christmas weekend. Strike notices have been issued for the 23rd to the 26th of December and the 30th of December to the 2nd of January. The SNCF website said more than half the scheduled intercity trains from Paris had been cancelled for the weekend. High-speed TGV lines are the mainstay of long-distance travel in France, and they're likely to be the worst hit. Notorious serial killer of the 1970s, Charles Shobhraj, is set to walk out of jail. A Nepal court has ordered his release. The much romanticised 78-year-old criminal, who is a French national of Indian and Vietnamese parentage, has been in jail since 2003 on murder charges. The court verdict has asked authorities to arrange for Shobhraj to return to his country within 15 days. Remember, Charles Shobhraj is wanted in multiple nations for crimes that range from jailbreak to brutal murder.
Are you happy with the police hospitality? Charles, are you happy with the police hospitality?
Charles Shobhraj has been nicknamed the Bikini Killer and the Serpent due to his skill at deception and invasion. He's been serving a life term in the Kathmandu jail since 2003 for the murder of American woman Connie Jo Bronzik in 1975 in Nepal. He was convicted in 2014 too for killing a Canadian backpacker and given a second life sentence. But there's also a big parallel dimension at work regarding Charles Shobhraj. He has gained what many might call a celebrity criminal status, a murderer turned romantic hero of sorts, because down the last 3 decades his character has been portrayed in several TV series and books. Shobhraj is believed to have killed 15 to 20 people in the 1970s. 2 of his victims were found wearing only bikinis. He's been linked to killings of many backpackers, and Shobhraj allegedly befriended mostly Western tourists in Asia, later drugging and killing them. And there's a big India connection too. Shobhraj spent 21 years in jail in India, with a brief 22-day break when he escaped the high-security Tihar jail after drugging security guards. Calls are expected to arise seeking his extradition by Nepal for trial and punishment.
And he tells me that he has no other cases in any other countries. In the case of Nepal, there were several cases, but the Supreme Court has decided only the case that has been awarded the highest punishment, that is 20 years of life imprisonment. So because of, after serving that 20 years of imprisonment, all the other cases and all the other charges and the punishments that were awarded are automatically included within this 20 years of imprisonment. So legally speaking, even he had other cases decided by the courts, but they all are included in the jail term that he completed. So there are no more cases basically in Nepal. There can be no. If there were any cases or chances of any cases, the respondents, the government, had enough opportunity given by the Supreme Court in the writ petition, the habeas corpus petition that we had filed. So it was very clear. And you all may know that Charles Shobhraj, according to our law, which is basically Prison Rules 1963, rule number 29(2)A, it provides that any prisoner above the age of 65.
My colleague Saloni Maraka brings you more on this story from Kathmandu.
Nepal Supreme Court has ordered the release of French serial killer Charles Shobhraj from the Kathmandu Central Jail. This is exactly where I'm standing right now, and where he was serving the life sentence for murdering 3 tourists here in Nepal. He has already served over 19 years in the Central Jail, and now the court has ordered his release on the grounds of age and health. In the order, the court has maintained that Charles has already served over 75% of his sentence and has displayed good character during the period. In the order, the court has asked the prison authorities to release him as soon as possible and deport him to his own country if there are not any other cases that he is liable for. Saloni Murarka for WION World is One in Kathmandu, Nepal.
So far, China has insisted on using domestic vaccines to combat COVID-19. For the first time now, Beijing is set to get foreign COVID vaccines. Germany has sent its first batch of BioNTech vaccines to China. Berlin has dispatched the shipment of vaccines, and the shots will be given initially to German expats. The government says that 20,000 Germans currently in China are set to benefit from this move. Beijing agreed to allow German nationals in China to get these shots after a deal that was struck by Chancellor Olaf Scholz's visit to Beijing in November. In return, Chinese nationals in Europe can be vaccinated with China's Sinovac. It's a vaccine that has not yet been approved by Europe's drug regulator. However, World Health Organization has given its nod to the vaccine.
Heute die Bundesrepublik davon unterrichtet hat, dass zunächst deutsche Staatsbürgerinnen und deutsche Staatsbürger in China mit dem BioNTech-Impfstoff geimpft werden dürfen. Das sind, glaube ich, 20.000 Deutsche, die davon jetzt erstmal profitieren können. Gleichzeitig bemühen wir uns, dass neben den deutschen Staatsbürgerinnen und Staatsbürgern auch ausländische, sogenannte Expatriates, in den Genuss eines solchen Schrittes kommen können.
The shots will be given free to anyone over 12 years of age. It will be delivered to German companies in China as well as embassy locations. The move comes amid China's easing of its strict zero COVID policy, something that's led to a sudden spike in COVID cases. And China saying that the true scale of infection is now impossible to track. Even the World Health Organization has said that it is very concerned about reports of severe COVID infections across China.
I think we're talking, protective efficacies of hovering at 50% or less for those two-dose regimes in someone over 60. That's just not adequate protection in a population as large as the population of China. In such a large population with so many people in a vulnerable setting, with that coverage, we really have to focus on vaccination. Having said that, China made massive progress over the last number of weeks in actually rolling vaccines out.
China has 9 COVID vaccines approved for use, more than any other country. All these 9 vaccines are domestically produced, and the vaccines are not based on the mRNA technology. And none of the Chinese vaccines has been updated to target the Omicron variant. On the other hand, Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna vaccines, which are the most widely used globally, have updated their boosters to combat the Omicron variant. Earlier, BioNTech had struck a deal with Shanghai Fosun Pharmaceutical to manufacture the vaccine. The shots have been made available in Hong Kong, Macau and Taiwan, but not in mainland China, as regulatory review is still not complete. In its first resolution against Myanmar in 74 years, the United Nations Security Council urged the country's military junta to end violence and free the ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi and all other political prisoners. The Southeast Asian country has witnessed crisis after a military coup deposed Suu Kyi's government in February 2021. 12 members of the UN Security Council voted in favour of the resolution, demanding an immediate end to violence in Myanmar, while China, Russia and India abstained from the vote. The 15-member council has long been divided over the Myanmar crisis due to China and Russia's stance. On Wednesday, the UN resolution expressed deep concern at the continuing state of emergency imposed by the military and its grave impact on Myanmar's people. The resolution urged concrete and immediate actions to implement a peace plan agreed by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. It also issued a call to uphold democratic institutions and processes and to pursue constructive dialogue and reconciliation in accordance with the will and interests of the people.
We have adopted the first Security Council resolution on the situation in Myanmar. It is the result of many weeks of careful consultation with Council members, with ASEAN members and with other key regional partners. In February 2021, the military overturned the results of a democratic election, seized power and plunged Myanmar and its 55 million people into a series of cascading crises, humanitarian, economic and political. The coup has had negative consequences for the region and its stability.
Myanmar has witnessed widespread civil unrest as people protested Suu Kyi's removal and the military rule. the 77-year-old Suu Kyi has been a prisoner since the army toppled her government almost 2 years ago and violently cracked down on dissent. According to a local monitoring group, the military's crackdown on pro-democracy protesters has killed more than 2,500 people in Myanmar. The military has alleged widespread voter fraud during the November 2020 election, which was won by Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party, although international observers said the elections were largely free and fair. Until now, the UN Security Council had only agreed formal statements on Myanmar, where the army also led a 2017 crackdown on Rohingya Muslims that was described by the United Nations as genocide. The only other resolution adopted by the Security Council was in 1948, when the body recommended the UN General Assembly admit Myanmar, which was Burma then, as a member of the world body. Santa seems to have taken a break before he tours the world, handing out Christmas gifts. Instead, he swam with fish and sharks at a Rio de Janeiro aquarium. The scuba diver behind Santa's costume, Philippe Luna, says seeing the sparkle in children's eyes was the Christmas magic. Well, that's all from your WION live broadcast from London. I've been Oliver Regan. Many thanks for joining us.
WION.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
It's code red for humanity. The alarm bells